Welcome back, guys. One last thing. I always say one last thing. It really doesn't make any sense, does it? Because there's never really any last thing until we get to the end of the year. But one more thing we need to discuss is those different types of transport. And I know we've talked about them, but we're going to look at this specific picture that's right up here. And we're going to look at that and show you a little bit more about the different types of transport. And there's 3 of them that you need to make sure that you know. But they're pretty straightforward. It's all about how different particles move in and out of the cell. Remember, that plasma membrane is a really special tool. It's really unique in the fact that it's selectively permeable, right? That term means that it allows some things into the cell and some things out of the cell. So if we take a look at this picture here, we notice that there are 3 different types of transport we need to make sure we know. The very first one is diffusion. Notice that diffusion just occurs directly across the cell membrane. Particles move from a high concentration to a low concentration, and no protein channel is involved. So this is a process that doesn't require any energy, and it's pretty straightforward. Molecules just simply diffuse across the cell membrane from a high concentration to a low concentration until the concentrations on both sides are equal. The second type is known as facilitated diffusion. That diffusion is very similar to that of regular diffusion. The only difference is that it requires a protein channel. So a protein is required to move the molecules from one side of the cell to the other, from high to low concentration. So that protein channel is required because the parts that want to go into the cell are simply too big, or the parts are simply in different polarity than what is allowed to go through and diffuse through the cell. These are both known as passive transport because they require no energy. No ATP is involved in this because it's diffusion. It's the natural movement of particles to go from a high concentration to a low concentration. Lastly, the last type of transport is known as active transport. This is going from a low concentration to a high concentration. This is different because instead of going from high to low, we're going from low to high. That's going against the concentration gradient. That's going against what naturally happens to molecules. So as a result, this requires energy. This requires ATP to occur. So those are the 3 types of transport: diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and active transport. Both diffusion and facilitated diffusion require no energy and go from high to low concentration. And active transport goes from low to high concentration and therefore requires ATP. So hopefully you understand a little bit more about the different types of diffusion. And if you ask me, it's, well, about 4:30 on a Saturday, so I'm going to diffuse on out of here in just a second. If I snap my fingers 3 times, I will diffuse and go from a high concentration to a low concentration. 1, 2, 3.